Thanks for tuning in today to another episode of the Holmes Hobby House. As you can see, we have our water garden already starting to collect some water. It has been very rainy in Missouri here lately, and I've been wanting to install some plants for this, but since it's raining so heavily, we're just kind of holding off a little bit. But as you can see, it is a success of a water garden. We installed a little bit more rocks on the edge here, so we'll have a hard edge for trimming, and pretty much all the rocks in the yard or place where they will be. We'll do some small fine tuning. We're going to have a little get together here this weekend, I think, but otherwise all the big rocks are where they're going to be and all the small rocks are at least close to where they're going to be. We can go inside and check out the small amount of progress that we have in there as well. Now I will say, we check out the bottom of this tree next to me. I was tearing up a bunch of roots from the ivy, winter creeper in particular, that was choking out the tree. It was really hurting the health of the tree, and I managed to get into some poison ivy, and it's been kind of hurting me for the past week here, and I'm just now getting past it. So yeah, be careful about that stuff. That was an unintended consequence of working at the Holmes Hobby House, but one nonetheless. Just kind of getting over the hand swelling right now. Took some cortisone, and well, I think that was far worse than the actual poison ivy itself. Another hobby project in the hobby house as usual. Picked up one of these guys for my daughter, about $200 on eBay. Ride-on toy, and it actually has a MP3 player inside and all kinds of fancy stuff like that, but it also has a remote control. So it's essentially a large remote control car you can take over at any time if you don't like what your kid is doing on there. So I've got one for my daughter at our house right now, and this one I have over here so I can put it together, have one maybe spare over here, but also one that I can take apart and modify and improve upon, because the torque of these is not that great, the speed of these is not that great, and it has two relays that controls forwards or reverse, and then a single FET that pulses on, so it has kind of a soft start feature to save the gearbox, and that's kind of cool. But it also makes it to where it's just practically gutless. So I'm going to do some beefing up of the traces on the PCB, a couple little things, maybe put a better FET in there, depending on what the gate charge is of the stock FET. Probably can throw a pretty strong FET in there and help that out. And then the wires, as we can see, these wires are just super thin. I would guess maybe 18 gauge tops, maybe 20, 22 gauge even. Just so thin that there's really no power. Let's see here. It may say on it, what it says is low quality. That's what it reads. So we'll be beefing up the wires on this, and then I'll be able to do a test against my daughter's rig and see if increasing the wire size and doing a couple modifications actually made it faster. I'm hoping that it does, and I'm expecting that it will, because there's enough load on these guys running around the yard that the voltage will drop on those thin wires. We've been preparing for the drywall work in here. I got the wires all tucked away, the outlets that were hanging out of the ceiling, got it mounted on the ceiling over here, so we'll be able to do the tape and the corner bead, and I've got a drywaller that I've ended up hiring for all this, because a professional drywaller is faster and does a much better job than I would ever do, so that's going to be nice. And we're almost finished with the drywalling in here. We're kind of midway through, but getting a little cleaner in here. Just a couple more layers and we'll be off to the races. I'm hoping that tomorrow I may have a chance to set a new sink in here, a little pedestal or whatever you want to call it, and then we'll be good. So I think that's about enough of watching a dingy bathroom slowly get made into a less dingy bathroom. So let's go outside and do a little crawling like this place should be. Woohoo! Right now I'm running the Puller Pro 540 3500 kV on 3S LiPo, 2200 milliamp hour, 35C discharge rate, and I have tuned the BLE controller for 18 kilohertz switching frequency. As you can tell, it's pretty quiet. There's not a lot of whine to the vehicle. You know, I get down close and you don't hear ee like normal. which is really a big thing for me. I don't like crawling and having a whine all the time. Although, truthfully, the whine gives a pretty good feedback of how much that the motor's working. And so it takes a little bit more skill to work a silent vehicle than it would otherwise when you have more feedback from the motor. You know, you can get bound down and just really not even know it and end up breaking parts. I also have the controller tuned with a pretty steep curve to the throttle, and that makes it to where we have this really controlled startup. You know, I'm not running the nicest of radio. I have just a linear curve on the radio throttle channel, but we get this really nice controlled startup, and then as much wheel speed as we want when we want it on tap. So it's kind of a do-all tune right now. I wanted to have a little more easygoing driving, so that that gentle curve on the throttle slope was a nice change. I generally keep a linear throttle both on the radio and on the ESC, just kind of as a worst case scenario, so that when I'm testing that I know, hey, it can't get much worse than this, but it can get better. I think I'm running about 30% drag brake right now as well. Not very much, enough to flip the rig over at full speed, but I kind of prefer my rig to coast. There we are. And we're still figuring out these rock piles as far as where the good lines are. The Wraith is big enough that it's kind of difficult to find tough lines, other than just bouncing off the rocks. We've got the wheel speed for that. Bam! The Wraith really doesn't have the best steering radius either. I don't have, I think I'm still running stock shafts on the front of this, no CVDs or unis. So combined with the long wheelbase and locked up differentials, it doesn't have the best turning radius, but it's just a fun rig. I don't compete with this one. There we are. A little wheel speed sometimes will fix any problem though, or get you into more trouble. See there, we don't need steering. Easy peasy. This side of the yard will probably be part of a rock racer track. A little less big boulder, a little more gravel. Oh dear. World-class driver here, watch out. Sometimes it is nice to have that wheel speed. And this is stock gearing, 80/20 on the spur and pinion. Like I said, 3S LiPo, 3500 kV Polar Pro 540 size. Gives plenty of stink and still crawls. Never really lacking for torque on the rocks. This is probably my favorite combo. 2700 kV is pretty nice too for more of a crawl speed in something like the SCX-10 but in the Bomber, in the Wraith, similar 2.2 size vehicles, and even in the smaller vehicles too, the larger rotor of the 540 size just really gives that extra punch and control on the startup. Well, I could probably just keep crawling all day out here, so we'll cut it short now. I thank you for tuning in today. Yeah, 30% drag brake. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope everyone has a great day.